What if the speed of light was 30 miles an hour? What if Earth had 2 suns? Which cereal mascot would win in a fight? What if everyone lived underground? What if it rained?
What if money grew on
What
trees?
if pigs could fly?
I don't know if that would actually happen.
It's much easier to store a unicycle than to store a horse.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
Guys, it's Halloween. We have a spooky episode.
Ooh.
Ben, where's your spooky?
Ooh.
There you go.
I did one. Wait, I did one? Did you not catch it? I'm going to do it again? Ooh. It was a little, maybe not that spooky, actually. You know what?
Almost sounds like just like Santa laughing or something.
Yeah, I was actually thinking Santa too. I don't know why. Yeah, on second oohing, I was less impressed with it. Yeah, I don't know what to say, guys. I'm sorry, I let you down.
Just save that for a couple months.
I did go to the local Lowe's and was immediately greeted at the front entrance by a very large Christmas display, which was on the date of like September 22nd or something.
Amazing.
Like a month and a half before Halloween, they're like, you know what people need? Animated Santa Claus and Christmas trees. And I'm like, this is a little early.
It's not exactly the same, and this one I legitimately appreciate, but there is a house near me that for the last, 2 years at least, has immediately after Labor Day put up their giant Home Depot skeleton in their yard and had it up until Halloween. And it's wonderful.
Like the 12-foot tall
Yeah,
one?
exactly, yeah. Like literally like day after, like Labor Day weekend, they're putting that up.
I think
and
I'm
honestly,
more okay with
I'm
that.
here for it. Yes,
Yeah.
me too. It's great.
You can put anything up for a holiday as long as there's no other major holidays between your holiday and the one you're targeting. Or, I guess, like 2 months before. 2 months is maybe the close limit. Like,
I think I just like Halloween decorations more than Christmas decorations.
Yeah, I'm down with that. There was also a house near me that, like the first week in November, would always put up Christmas lights, but they would only put like one string of lights and one tree, which is like, you can't be someone who puts up Christmas lights way too early and also just like half-asses it. Like you can't do that combination. That's not allowed.
they want to check that box and they just don't want to procrastinate on it.
Right? Yeah. Gotta get the lights up.
Forget
How many lights? Doesn't matter. Just the lights.
Yeah. I put my Christmas lights up last week.
It's like,
Oh,
did
how they
you?
look? The important thing is that I did it.
Yeah, they're there. My one
did the
string of
literal thing.
white lights are in my tree. Not even like multicolored lights. Anyway, point being, I'm done.
Point being, we have a Halloween question too today.
Yes.
And we are doing we're calling a candy fight. We'll do fight episodes sometimes where we'll debate which of a type of character would win in a heads-up fight. We're doing it a little different this Halloween. We've each picked a Halloween monster, but they're not going to be competing in a battle of fists, but they're competing a battle of candy. I couldn't think of something that nearly rhymed.
Sweet. Not rhymes. That doesn't help. I don't got one. I'm sorry. Continue.
That's okay. But, yeah, so we each have picked a monster, and we are going to try and figure out between the ones we've chosen, which one would have the most successful trick-or-treating adventure. Basically, who's going to get the most candy? Couple little parameters here. You got to do, it's got to be trick-or-treating candy.
Yeah, you can't go to the store or anything.
Yeah, you can't just go knock up a 7-Eleven and knock up. That's not the right term. Knock over. There we go.
But they're always there for me.
24/7.
So yeah, it's gotta be trick or treating candy. The police are there. You can't just go like if you are a monster who could get caught and detained by the police, that can end your trick or treating spree. And and we decided to not be in the same neighborhood because that would probably just directly devolve into a normal fight. So we're in comparable but separate, I imagine, just typical suburban neighborhoods, doing the trick-or-treating. Chris, why don't you get us started and tell us what monster you chose?
So the monster I chose was It, from the movie It, from the Stephen King novel originally, and then they made like a miniseries, and then they made a couple movies. Pretty famous. You might know him as Pennywise because that's the most common form he takes, is the little dancing clown.
I thought that was his only name. I didn't realize he was also called It.
I think his name is actually It. But yeah. I started with his origins. They're pretty weird, but he was created from a void surrounding the universe called the Macroverse. And evidence suggests that he was created by like an other godly entity. And then there's like another...
Is this one of the books that Stephen King wrote while really like coked up? Because this sounds like one of the books that Stephen King wrote while really coked up.
Probably.
Does your spooky clown that lives in the sewer really need to have a like multiverse type storyline and can't just be?
If you're Stephen King, hell yeah,
Stephen
it does.
King. I mean, all of Stephen King's books, I think they're like all interconnected through a multiverse. So, yes.
Yeah, thanks, Dark Tower. You made that happen.
Speaking of Dark Tower, I guess the turtle. There's a turtle in the Dark Tower called Maturin. It's like a giant ancient turtle, and it's one of the 12 guardians of the beam that hold up the Dark Tower. Apparently, that's its brother. Yeah.
Stephen King got some good drugs.
Yep. Apparently, they're also like natural enemies. And in the book, the turtle like gives one of the kids advice on how to beat it. It's kind of strange. I never actually read the book, but that's what the synopsis says. I don't think they did that in the movie.
Cliff notes. Do those exist still? I don't know.
They probably do.
According to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But he arrived to Earth on an asteroid, and he landed in a fictional town called Derry, Maine. And his thing is that he goes into like a 27-year hibernation cycle, and then he wakes up every 27 years. He feeds on people for an entire year, and then he goes back to sleep for 27 years. And he prefers to feast on children, mainly because they're like easier to scare, and he feeds off of fear. Like
Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, pretty much like Monsters, Inc. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, you're right. And he actually has like a psychic influence on the entire town. So he's able to manipulate the awareness of the citizens of Derry. And they're like less aware that there's like an increased level of like child murders. And they like don't really investigate them just because they're under his influence. And the main characters in the book, the first half of the book, they're like kids, and then the second half, it's 27 years later, and they're adults. And in the second half of the book, they actually forget all the stuff that happened to them in the first half, just because they're like influenced by it. And then they end up having to like relearn everything. Now, its techniques for hunting, he's actually a shapeshifter, so he can turn into different shapes, different forms. His most famous form, I already mentioned, is Pennywise the Dancing Clown. But he also has a lot of other ones. So in the novel, he turns into 32 different forms. In the 1990 miniseries, he turns into 16 forms. In the 2017 movie, he turns into 13 forms. And then in the 2019 movie, he turns into 23 forms. A lot of different things. And he can also take the form of multiple beings at the same time. So at one point, he turns into a school of piranhas. Another point, he turns into like a swarm of winged leeches. And no one actually knows what its true form is. He does turn into like a spider thing, which they say is his closest Earth true form, but it's not actually his true form. So yeah,
Maybe his true form is also a big turtle like his brother.
maybe. I think they call his true form like dreadlights, but they don't. It's like a very not descript. Like they don't really explain what it is. But it's called dreadlights. Now, he often, like his techniques, he often promises the children something that they want, and he like lures them into seclusion. And then he's able to determine their psychological fears, and then he uses those fears to provoke them. So he can make them like hallucinate whatever their fear is. And in some cases, he's actually able to control people. There's one character in the book / movies called Henry Bowers, and he's able to exploit Henry's psychotic tendencies. He makes him kill his father and hunt down the kids, the main characters. So those are like sort of his powers. His weaknesses, they say he must obey the laws of the form that he takes. So for an example, if he turns into a vampire, then he has all the weaknesses of a vampire, like he's weak to the sunlight and stuff like that. He's also weak to courage, since he feeds on fear. And they do say that he can only be defeated by in a battle of wills, which is kind of weird. That's how they do it in the book. In the movie, I think they kind of just insult him a bunch, and then it's actually kind of a weird scene. They just like bully him, and then he like shrinks down, and then they pull out his heart and crush it. But according to the novel, you have to do a battle of wills. And for our little candy fight thing, I think his obviously it's Halloween, and his whole thing is like scaring people. He feeds off of fear, and obviously there are going to be people scared on Halloween because there's lots of monsters and stuff. Statistically, someone's going to be scared. I think he's going to target children, and he's going to use his like influence thing on the entire town. He was able to do that with Derry, so I think he can do that with the entire town and pretty much have all the parents oblivious, including like the authorities. I don't know how strong his influence is, because obviously the main characters eventually overcome that, but there's some influence there. And then he'll just go around stealing candy from these kids that he's scaring and collect candy that way. So that is it. That is how he is going to steal candy. Ben, what is your monster?
So sticking with our vague names theme, I went with The Thing from The Thing. Technically, it's usually kind of referred to as like the organism. It doesn't really have like a name of any kind. I'm going to refer to it as the organism from The Thing, because that feels just better than saying The Thing over and over, because believe me, I'm going to say The Thing a lot in this description anyway already.
I mean, I said it
in addition
over.
to your vocal pattern of always saying, the thing is...
Oh my God, Marcus, I actually got so nervous. Literally this morning, I was like, oh my God, I say The Thing is all the time, and I agree to do an answer about The Thing.
Well, now you don't have to worry about that. You've established that you're not going to say The Thing.
Oh no, I'm going to say The Thing plenty. Don't worry. Anyway, The Thing is a 1982 John Carpenter movie. It's kind of a remake of a 1951 sci-fi horror called The Thing from Another World. But both of those... So, I guess, The Thing from Another World was inspired by a 1938 novella by John W. Campbell Jr. called Who Goes There? And The Thing is... more than being a remake of Thing from Another World, is more just a more faithful adaptation of Who Goes There than The Thing from Another World was. Basic plot takes place at an American Antarctic research station. One morning, they start hearing gunfire and explosions outside. They go out to investigate, and they see an Alaskan Malamute being pursued by a Norwegian helicopter. The pilot of the helicopter tries to throw a thermite charge and accidentally blows up the helicopter, killing himself. The passenger who had gotten out starts firing at the dog with a rifle, and in the process actually grazes one of the researchers at the base. And then at that point, after like trying to calm him down, he gets shot by the base commander because the guy only speaks Norwegian and they can't tell what the hell's going on. This dude just appears to be insane, firing at a dog, and just kind of shot someone. So they adopt the dog because it's just a dog, and decide to go try to make contact with the Norwegian camp and figure out what is actually going on. Long story short, the Norwegian base had found an alien spacecraft and a frozen creature that had been there for thousands of years. The creature turned out it was hibernating, and it also has the ability to assimilate and imitate organic life. And the dog was that organism, and as you might imagine, things go bad, which we'll sort of get to a little bit later. There are two other canonical works in, I guess, the Thing series. There is a prequel and a sequel. The prequel is a 2011 movie, also called The Thing. That's basically just the story of that Norwegian base. It is not as good as The Thing. It is not as good as the 1982 The Thing, but it's not as bad as I think people kind of feel that. I think it gets a bad rap.
Why did they name it the same thing?
No, it's The Thing, not the. Okay, anyway.
So here's the thing. It's not the thing. The thing.
It's not the same thing. It's just the thing. I think so. I think they were going to go for more of a sort of soft remake vibe, and then basically decided that the original was still really good and decided to go the prequel route instead. In terms of why they didn't change the name, I don't know. I don't know what else you'd call it. Before The Thing, the younger Thing. I don't know. Like there's not a whole lot of great options. But still obviously associated with The Thing. There's not a whole lot to work with the name The Thing. The Thing Origins. I don't know. But
it's not just The Thing, the other thing. No, the next thing.
But yeah, if you're only going to see one of The Things, see the 1982 The Thing, but the 2011 The Thing is also not that bad as The Things go. The sequel is actually a video game from 2002, also called The Thing. And that one, the story gets pretty wild. There's like a biotech company that was trying to weaponize the Thing. I don't know. It was this whole... It gets weird. The idea behind the game was actually pretty cool. They had all these systems where there would be, non-player characters that you had to establish trust with because they would otherwise think that you might be you might be the Thing. So they had like a trust system and a fear system where if they got more afraid, they'd be more erratic and stuff like that. And people could get infected if they came into contact with it and randomly turn into the Thing. But in practice, it wasn't very good, and they kind of just made people transform at scripted times, and it wasn't as cool as it should have been. But I mean, cool idea, guys. I guess, yeah. In terms of abilities of this organism, the big one is assimilation. So it is a shape-shifting organism. It's probably better to describe it as, I guess, a colony of organisms that work together to replicate other organic matter. The idea being that if you have a droplet of Thing blood, that's actually a collection of tiny, microbiotic Thing organisms that are emulating blood. When it is imitating something, its intelligence is based on how large it is, basically how many Thing cells it has. When it is, person-sized, it is very intelligent. When it's smaller, it's not necessarily. And this is actually in the 1982 movie. The way they check if someone is the Thing is they take their blood and stick a hot needle into it, because when it tries to survive, it'll move away from the hot needle, which blood normally does not do. I don't know if you guys were aware of that.
Well, maybe not yours.
Well,
I've never tried
if yours does, I have some very pointed questions for you, Marcus, about your Thing status.
It's okay. I'm ready. I'm very smart.
Yep, you're very smart. You're quite large. Basically, the way this process works is it has to make... It's kind of unclear. Sometimes it seems like it has to kind of eat the material to get it going. Sometimes it's more just like an exchange of fluids. I don't know. That then like the infection takes over. It's also not clear exactly how long it takes, but it's reasonably quickly because the movie takes place over a couple of days. An important note that comes from the prequel movie: it cannot replicate non-organic things. Non-organic objects. Let's try to use the word thing very carefully in this description. And that movie is actually kind of cool. They check for thingness by looking for people's like metal filings in their teeth, which is kind of a neat touch. But anyway, once it has assimilated something, it can imitate them exactly down to their memories, characteristics, mannerisms, all of that. Even things down to like if they have health defects, there's someone who has a weak heart, that is replicated when it replicates someone. So it is an exact copy, all the memories, all of that. It also has an ability that I described in my notes as that thing that starfish do when you cut one in half, it turns into two. Which is basically just that when part of the thing is severed from the body of the thing, both of those pieces become their own independent creatures. They could reform, but there are definitely, multiple scenes where, say, a head is removed and it sprouts legs and runs away under its own power. But this is kind of just because it is, like I said, a colony of smaller organisms kind of working together. So they don't need to be entirely together to survive. In terms of weaknesses, the big one is fire. Doesn't like fire. Doesn't like electricity. At least in the novella that everything's based on. It kind of comes up in the movies a little bit, but not as much. That's the big one. You burn it, it dies. That's kind of it. In terms of getting candy, the route that I think makes the most sense is basically start assimilating some kids and then send them out trick-or-treating.
Is assimilation a murder process?
A little bit, yeah. So you're gonna have to be a little sneaky.
So you have to actually kill. You can't just like copy you can't get a drop of kid blood and be like, ooh, there's two of us now. It's murder the kid and then assimilate it.
Basically, yeah. Technically, you could get some thing blood into the kids inside the kid blood, and it'll take over eventually. But I think the murdering way is faster, and we are kind of under a clock on this one. So
you only have one night.
Yeah, only one night, and really less than that because trick or treating is probably a maybe 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. process. So you kind of got to get move on it. So I think really the plan is basically find a house, get into it, assimilate those people. And then ideally you can get one of those ones that goes really all out and has a little like mini haunted house up front, like people do sometimes, have a little privacy. And then start, picking them off and send them back out. Go from there. I do have one ace in the hole I'm going to bring out when the time is right. But that's my main plan.
Ooh.
Is some child murder and impersonation. Marcus, what'd you do?
I did the Gremlins from the movie of the same name.
We are really good at picking monsters that have unique names that aren't entirely just the name of their movie, huh?
What's annoying too is I can't really call them Gremlins necessarily because Gremlins are not always Gremlins.
It's a square rectangle situation.
No. So Gremlins are the evil version of the Mogwai. So if you imagine the main gremlin of the Gremlin movie is actually a cute little adorable like Furby hamster looking thing. That's not a gremlin. That's a Mogwai. That's their cute little harmless pet form, of which there are 3 rules if you're raising it. So basically, if you have a Mogwai, everything is cool and dandy if you don't break any of the 3 rules. Rule number 1, do not expose them to bright lights. Rule number 2, do not get them wet. And number 3, the most famous one, do not feed them after midnight.
I have the same rules, by the way.
Just generally
for life, it's a good strategy.
But they apply a little bit more to the Mogwai, where rule 1 is there because bright lights and sunlight are actually damaging and can be lethal to the Mogwai and Gremlins. They just burn up and die. So if they're out in the sun, they're gonzo. That's how they defeat them in the movie sometimes. So if you have a pet, don't let it get light on it because you will no longer have a pet. You will have a smoking puddle of a pet. Rule number 2, do not get them wet. It's not because getting wet kills them like sunlight. If they get wet, it causes them to multiply. So the Mogwai kind of reproduce by like effectively budding. It's like an asexual reproduction. And so like they drop a single drop of water on them with a water dropper, and like a little fur ball pops off, and then like within about a minute becomes another Mogwai. They first see this when they spill like kind of like they knock over a glass of water onto one, and it made 5 of them. And increase the amount of water increases the amount of replication you get. So one of the big points in the movie is that the one they're trying to get rid of jumps into a pool and makes literally hundreds of itself. Not quite itself. It's asexual reproduction, but they are different. Like they'll have different personalities, be slightly different. Not probably super relevant, but it's not cloning. And then rule 3, again, don't feed them after midnight. So if you feed a cute little harmless Mogwai after midnight, it'll go into a cocoon and emerge as an evil gremlin. So it goes from that cute furry hamster looking thing to like a creepy scaly lizardish looking version of it. And then that's actually like the gremlin, and that gremlin will go around murdering, torturing, like partying, and like in a weirdly like intelligent adult way. Like they use guns, like they'll shoot people, like they'll go and party at a bar. Like it's not so much animalistic as like, you know, like Lord of the Flies type vibe more. So that's really the big part of the Gremlins is that they don't like sunlight, getting wet multiplies them, and then if they eat after midnight, they turn evil and start going pillaging and stuff. In the second Gremlins movie, they get additional powers. They get into like it's hosted in the evil biomutation lab, and the Gremlins get into a bunch of like DNA syringes and start like putting mutations in themselves. So, like one of them turns into electricity, one of them gets like spider powers, one of them like I'm not going any of those things. I'm electing to not go that route on the basis that there are not many secret genetic labs readily available in most suburban towns, especially ones that have like Spider-Man serum. So I'm gonna stick with just kind of the classic gremlining. So kind of I think I'm going to be doing it more like a starting off with the, you know, you guys both have one thing, so I'm gonna start off with my single Mogwai, and it's gonna be kind of a phased approach to this because daytime trick-or-treating is a little bit slower because I can't really be exposed to bright light. So you can protect it with like a full coverage costume, but you kind of run into a problem too where they're a little bit too small to make someone think they're a kid. Like it's kind of more like it's like 1.5 feet tall maybe. Like it's not really, you know, a 3-foot kid. So if you know, it knocks on the door and there's like a tiny thing, it's like at best an infant, which would not really be given candy. So you're gonna have to start multiplying early. I think you can do some like 3 Mogwai in a trench coat type shenanigans. Like you can get like, you know, a sheet with some eye holes cut out and, you know, pretend to be a kid. So it's gonna be, you're kind of limited to who you can fool, and also, you know, how much access do you have to tiny costumes that they can make?
Did you say how long it takes them to multiply?
It's like 2 minutes is the scene. So
okay.
Between like the water falls on them, it like falls over and like shakes and it pops off, and within a minute that ball that pops off is like a full-size gremlin.
So that's pretty fast.
I would like to make one minor correction. You earlier said that you're going to start with 1 because we each had one thing. I have one thing. Chris has one it.
Okay, moving on. Once we kind of get to the evening trick-or-treating, like, you know, sun goes down, it's a little bit darker, we can start multiplying a bit more because we're not really limited by we're a little bit. I think we're a little bit. We're not limited by having like protective costumes, and I think people are gonna be a little bit easier to fool in the dark. You know, if you have a terrible 3 Mogwai trench coat type costume, it's gonna be a little easier to pass that off in the darkness. But then of course, trick or treating is kind of over at that point. But I don't know if that's the end of the night. I'm gonna give my guys till sunrise, because after midnight, of course, they're gonna have all this candy. They're gonna eat the candy that they've collected. So once they eat after midnight, they kind of go into a cocoon. Best I can tell from the timelines in the movies, the cocoons last for about like 3 to 4 hours. So really, it's gonna be like at like 3 to 4 a.m. around that time, but like an hour or two before sunrise. The gremlins will emerge for kind of just a all-out crime fest for candy collection, whatever avenues are left available to them at that time. So we'll see what they do. I mean, I'll point out that in one of the movies, like we said, they're not really going to be doing that, but I found it funny that in the movie, he literally breaks into a convenience store to steal a giant bag of candy. So they are naturally incentivized to seek out candy. But I was just like reading the synopsis. Also, I did not get a chance to actually watch the movie. So anything I got wrong, I apologize. I'm reading this off of some questionable summaries. But broke into a convenience store and was eating a whole bunch of candy. So they do like the candy.
So those are 3 monsters.
We have our 3 monsters, and we kind of can. We have my multifaceted approach we kind of just went through. Ben, you're gonna be kind of just like trick or treating as a kid, more or less.
Basically,
you're murdering
yeah.
kids.
Well, several
Are you gonna
kids eventually.
So, are you gonna be stealing candy from other kids, or are you just gonna be trick or treating?
No, just trick or treating. So I feel like you don't. This is definitely one of those things where the organism is, if it plays its cards right, can be basically undetectable, because it won't be doing anything aside from just trick or treating and also murdering some kids. But like that's the part you got to be a little careful about. But you know what I mean. Like there's a lot less that can go wrong if you stick to just trick or treating. I'll go ahead and pull out my last gambit, which is I did think about stealing candy from children, as I often do. Think about, not actually do. Don't worry.
It's really easy though. You don't have to think too hard about it.
Like taking it from a baby. Yeah, you know. And I thought about that, but I feel like that was going to draw too much heat. But what you could do, because it's been established that the organism can also emulate animals, is as the trick-or-treating is going on, go out and assimilate a bunch of like dogs and birds and things. And that as the night is winding down, you bring all the animals in to grab all the candy at the end that the other non-thing kids have already collected. You won't be able to get all of it because, people will scatter.
What candy is left over, though?
Oh, no, like the bags that they are holding, I mean. You go after the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let them do the work for you. So, I do have that in the back pocket, sort of like do a catch-up, because there is a bit of a ramping up, much like the Gremlins have, for this organism.
Right.
And then Chris is going straight up just murder as many children as I can lure into my fun house.
So it can do the same thing. Like, it can disguise itself and like do trick or treating if it wants. I think instead of like disguising itself as just a kid, it would have to, because it's fear based, it have to turn into something that other people are scared of. But that's probably fine because people are dressed up anyway on Halloween. So, and then I think it would probably also try to steal stuff because it has like. I mean,
maybe we should kind of just say that's their inclinations, because we should separate the two shapeshifters a little bit, I imagine.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well,
like,
I mean,
if you both just say I'm going to murder and shapeshift, there's no separating you two.
Well, because I think the thing, or Ben is trying to like avoid being caught, or like he's just trying to blend in completely. But I think that's less of a concern with it because he has that like influence on the town where they're a little more oblivious.
Mm-hmm.
How big a bag of candy does the average kid have trick-or-treating?
It's like a pillowcase.
Like a pillowcase.
That's why you see is. Yeah.
I'm trying to think back to my younger days, because there was definitely a ramp up as I got older when it was like when you have the friends who'd grab the bucket. I'm gonna admit it right here, the shame, grabbing the porch. Every once in a while they grab the porch bucket, and that adds up quick. Or mostly just like the stamina too. Like you just start early. You start at like, right after school. You start at 3 and you just go for like till like 9. That's like 6 hours. A lot of candy.
Yeah,
I
feel
think
like
there's an age where you start with like the little pumpkin bucket, and then as you get
Exactly.
older, you upgrade to the pillowcase.
I think there's actually a series of differently sized pumpkin buckets that sort of scale to your size as a child, right?
Yeah.
Got the little ones for little kids, and they get a little bigger. And then once you hit like, I don't know, 11, 12, something like that, you get the pillowcase. That's the end game.
I will say I'm definitely so it's gonna be I think just straight up stealing from children is probably the fastest. Like is the
It's the fastest. It's also the riskiest.
so when we get to say like 7 o'clock or so, after the younger kids trick-or-treating time, I think Chris will definitely be ahead. I will be lucky to have like escaped too much notice. Because I'm literally just a bunch of hamsters and maybe a few groups of hamsters in trench coats, but there's it's gonna be tough for me to do much, and I don't think the Mogwai are gonna. I don't think that they would be inclined to steal from children in that way.
But once you get ramped up, like you have the potential to have a lot of gremlins everywhere.
Yeah, once I'm in the evening, I'm gonna have there's no real upper limit. Like I was gonna, of course, as always, intended to do the math on how many you could be, but literally he jumps in a swimming pool and makes hundreds. Like there's no more math that I can do. I can find more swimming pools. Like the number's just gonna be ridiculous. Like it's not gonna make any. I could be like, if I come here and say there's gonna be 1 million gremlins trick or treating, that doesn't help anybody. That does not a podcast make. And but yeah, no, I definitely will be increasing in numbers just consistently. So I'm gonna be ramping up, but it's kind of a judgment call on how that ramping up coincides with the availability of candy.
It was kind of an interesting situation because I feel like Chris, it can get out to a strong start because it has just the best, single organism rate of getting candy. The thing can kind of scale, but it scales linearly because it's going to be pretty, incredibly risky to try to assimilate anything away from whatever the home base is, right? And the gremlins are going to start slow, but then scale basically exponentially. Huh.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
What is available? What is available at 4 a.m. after Halloween? How much candy is left available?
I think if you're not stealing, not much.
Yeah, I mean they would break into people's homes and murder them and get their candy, but does that count?
No, I guess they have to still be trick-or-treating. Like, you can only steal from people that are still trick-or-treating.
That's fair. You can be the bully kid, you can't be just, a murderer.
Yeah.
Well, they disagree, but yes.
I say it's the person whose plan is literally murder children and impersonate them. Yeah, it's tough with the gremlins, huh?
If I scare children out of their home at 3 a.m. and they decide to carry their bag of candy out with them.
If they're using their pillowcase full of candy as their pillow and keep it with them for safekeeping, yes.
I mean, there's lots of kids. I think a lot of kids in the 8 to 10 range would first instinct, I'm gonna save my Halloween candy. House is burning down. What's my most important thing? The candy I just got.
There also might be some houses that don't get trick-or-treaters and they just leave the candy bowl out there.
You bring it in though before the evening.
I also feel like by that point, some, tough youths will have come by and taken the candy out of the bowl,
I mean, personally, my parents, they live on a dead end. So they put out, there was one year where they put out a bowl of candy and they got 0 trick-or-treaters.
Amazing.
I will say this: I will have excellent open bowl coverage with my daytime Mogwai.
That's true.
Yeah.
because they will be the like they're not the evil ones yet, but I think they will absolutely jump on taking a free bowl of candy. The social pressures of not doing that because it's mean will not apply to them.
This is tough. How do we possibly judge this?
Yeah, I don't know.
This is kind of a weird question, but what percentage of houses put out a bowl? What percentage of houses leave out?
I mean, like, put it out instead of having people ring the doorbell?
Yeah.
I would guess, entirely arbitrary, I would guess 1 in 10.
Yeah, I feel like it's not nearly as common as ringing the doorbell.
Oh, my what? Oh, I found an article, but it was because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
It said 46% of Americans say they won't be handing out candy on Halloween. But this is October 2020. That's COVID times.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we all have different strategies, and it's mainly based, like, our success is mainly based on just the number of people that we have, or number of, like, creatures we have collecting, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, I don't know, because you're right. It is only one organism, but I'm going to be stealing, so it's going to be faster.
Yeah, you're going to be getting, if you steal 30 houses worth of candy in one go, that builds up a lot faster than if I send out, if I send out 10 kids total that hit 30 houses each, you only have to hit 10 kids to match that, right?
Yeah.
Which feels pretty good.
So what are the chances you think one of us will get caught and will fail?
Well, you're definitely so there for me. So for Pennywise for it. I don't think the chances are zero. I weirdly think that going around and stealing a bunch of kids' Halloween candy, I mean, also murdering them, but, like, I feel like that draws attention, like, even through a fog.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be more risky than, like, Ben's approach.
Well, yes and no.
And he's at risk from...
He does have to kill someone.
He's pretty heavily at risk from the police, too. Like if the police just showed up to his sewer home, for example... Could they just arrest him? I mean, I know he can shapeshift, but, like, what are the odds?
Well, I mean,
then you'd have to, like, kill. You'd have to go on a killing spree at that point.
Yeah, police don't really carry flamethrowers frequently, so there's actually not a whole lot they could do. But then things escalate, and the trick or treating probably ends, and that kind of kills my chances. So
I mean,
trying to
the
avoid
military would come in eventually. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the same reason why I don't want to spring the animal invasion too early, because that'll also probably put a damper on the trick or treating in the area. If just
there's definitely a critical mass I'd have to avoid where just like, oh, there's a lot of like when the fourth set of cute hamsters in a ghost costume come up to your house, like people might just decide to be like, okay, this is getting ridiculous, and just close their trick or treating doors on that. But no, that would take a lot. How many of the same costume who you suspect is the same kid or the same weird event would you have to hit on a Halloween if you're giving out candy before you're like, you know what, I'm done with this. This is ridiculous.
I think if they came by 3 times in 15 minutes, right? That's the point where it'd be like, or if you may not stop, but you'd say, okay, I'm not giving you more candy. I've already given you candy, right? Like I have given this bed sheet with weird lumps under it candy before a couple times already. I'm not doing it again.
I mean, they'd definitely recognize you every time, I think, or at least unless you changed costumes.
I mean, they would be different. They would be different sets. I imagine they would be different gremlins in a slightly different costume, but like it couldn't be that different.
Right?
Like,
there's a limit to how much you can do.
Yeah. So you have some variation, but not a lot.
Once you get to nighttime, like they're gonna get lazier, and I imagine they get lazier and more disheveled as the night goes on. Like,
so you get more of them as the night goes on, but they're less effective like individually.
Well, maybe we can do some math here. Let's see if so. We were talking about how long would it take it to nab a kid and kill a kid while staying under the radar?
I mean, it's pretty simple, I think. Like, it's not going to take very long at all.
I guess. What do you think
give me
your
a number of
throughput
minutes.
is? Yeah.
Number of minutes? I mean, the movie starts with him luring one kid to like a sewer, and I guess he talks to him for a while before he actually he bites his arm off. But I don't know, that scene is maybe, I don't know, like 10 minutes.
So yeah, and do you think he would relocate between, so we say 15 minutes per nab?
child?
We'll call it a nab.
Sure.
So if you have 15 minutes per nab, and we say trick-or-treating time is 3 to, say, 10 p.m., 7 hours?
I would say start it at like 4 though, because that's where we're gonna start having people with full bags.
Okay, yeah, 4 to 10,
Well,
6 hours?
you'd just be doing normal trick-or-treating until then, though.
Fair.
Yeah, well,
But yeah, we'll focus on the stealing
we'll give
part.
you one bag for the first hour where you're trick or treating, and then one bag per 15 minutes after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have 24 kids worth. You'd be able to get 24 kids, because you get 4 an hour and 6 hours. You have 24 kids worth of, and we'll give you collecting on your own 25 kids worth of candy. Yeah, 25 kids of candy.
So I'm sorry. Something about the idea of it just trick or treating for an hour is very, very funny to me.
He's
like,
waiting. He's
I don't know any better to do. Got candy somehow.
So, okay, but how many kids do you think you could be? Or how many groups, how many separate kid organisms could you have?
I've been trying to figure that out. So it's part of the problem. It's unclear how long the assimilation process actually takes. I was gonna say I can get one kid an hour out going, like one kid's worth of thing, I guess. But conceivably they could change into a different kid after one route through. Right?
Right.
So I'd have one kid the first hour, then 2, then 3, etc.
Okay, so it's going to be
So
6
it
plus 5 plus 4
linearly.
plus 3 plus...
Yeah,
So
exactly.
6
It goes linearly. Yeah.
Yeah, so... And how long... And then we'd say, and you want to say an hour for a kid to collect enough candy? To be one kid's worth of candy?
That's what I
for an hour?
figured. Yeah. Is that reasonable? I don't know.
I don't know.
How long did we trick or treat for as kids?
I mean,
2
I did
hours?
for longer, but also had
Oh.
more candy than the average kid.
Yeah.
So maybe we say our unit is a kid hour of candy.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure, that works.
So if you go, so basically you're gonna be your candy output's gonna be 6 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1. That gives you 21
21
kid hours of
kid
candy.
hours of candy. All right.
God, I love this.
Yep.
So now we're on Gremlins.
Gremlins
Oh,
are a
there's
little
also-
tricky.
There's also the candy, any that I managed to steal with my animal wave at the end.
Oh, right. So you have...
I'm not going to say I'm going to get that much with that.
I mean, if you hit 6 kids, though, that's not that many.
Yeah. It's just tough, I think you're going to be most effective with dogs, I think, in terms of being able to, wrench a candy out of the arms of a screaming child. So how
They
many?
do spill them. I imagine they'll spill a little bit.
Yeah.
I
I would say maybe I can get 8 dogs out, and they'll manage to get one kid hour per 2 dogs. I don't want to aim too high with this because I don't know how successful that plan's going to be. It's kind of just like a little Hail Mary at the end.
Well, so if you were a kid and a dog tried to steal candy from you, would you think?
Yep.
Do you think you'd be able to?
I mean, if
I mean,
it's
I
like
don't
a
know.
vicious
Absolutely.
dog.
I don't think it would get all of your candy though. It would get some candy.
You'll get your bag.
Yeah, I think at a certain point what's going to happen is the kid's going to drop the bag and run away. If there's a like snarling, vicious dog that has grabbed onto your bag of candy,
I think basically like the dog might have several attempts, but they would probably be in the last hour, say,
Exactly.
successful in one of them.
because this is one of those things too, right? Where you can only do this at the very end of the night, because once someone says, "Hey, there are wild dogs attacking children in this neighborhood," people aren't going to trick or treat there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had 8 dogs, I think each would get 1 on average.
Okay. So what is in that case? What is a reasonable number of dogs? This is such a stupid question.
if you have enough organisms to make 6 kids,
How many? What is the ratio?
That's
of
probably
kids to
about.
dogs?
Is it just 6 dogs? Let's just say
I would say it's 6 dogs.
1 kid
then.
per dog.
1 kid per dog. If you're saying they're like German Shepherd sized dogs, right? Like,
Yeah, they're gonna want to be.
you know. So yeah, we'll say 6 dogs. So six more dogs of 6 more kid hours of candy at the end via dog attack.
You're definitely gonna have more candy than me.
Not by much, I don't think. Right?
No, it's
I guess
a
we had
lot, I think.
27.
Yeah, 27 to 25 right now.
Yeah.
So really, it's down to the Gremlins. So we're gonna have to figure out. So we have to kind of figure out.
The Gremlins are tricky because I think they
really
get less
tricky.
effective later,
Yeah.
but there's more of them.
Yeah, let's say size of average suburban town. All right, so a median suburban neighborhood is fairly dense, housing approximately 1,800 to 2,000 people per square mile. So if we do like 2.2-ish people per household, or 2.5, I don't know.
I would say do like 3, just because you're assuming it's a relatively family heavy area.
Yeah, we'll say 2.5 kids, not everyone's got kids. Let's do 4 to make the math easy. So it's 500. 1 square mile is a good radius. So there's 500 houses available. What percentage of said homes would be fooled by three
Also,
mogwais in a costume?
what percentage don't do trick or treating? I would guess like
Aw.
20%.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
times 0.8. Yeah,
So we're down to 400 houses.
400 houses. How many people would open up the door, see what is clearly 3 creatures in a costume, and not give them candy? They would offer a trick-or-treating basket, but what do you do?
How? Okay, logistical question. How are the Gremlins holding their candy receptacle?
I guess it would be with tiny arms.
Oh,
near
see,
the face.
this is what I was kind of wondering, and this I feel like is hurting your chances a little bit.
You could use like
It could be on the other side of a sheet, but yeah, it's gonna be a little weird.
like sticks to like as chopsticks to hold up a bucket or something.
They are crafty. In the second movie, one literally crafted a bow and arrow out of some paper clips and rubber bands and shot a flaming arrow to destroy a spider gremlin. So they have some decent amount of ingenuity. They're clever. They're clever.
Okay.
But again, it's you're trying to pretend, generally trying to be a pretend kid, or how many households would just not care that it's not actually a child, that it's just like a weird thing.
It's like, yeah, sure, why
asking
not?
for candy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I got this shit. I'm just giving it away anyway. I mean, like 5 to 10%. Like,
Yeah.
like, it's low.
I was gonna say the highest I'd probably go would be like 20%, and that even feels a little generous.
Let's do like 10% during the daytime, and then like 15 when it's darker. It's a little harder to tell.
That's fair, yeah.
So that's really like, so it's 40. I have access to 40 houses then for daytime hours, which would be like 4 to 7, and then 7 to 10 would be the other 3 hours.
Well, how many houses are we saying is one kid's worth of candy?
1 kid hour. How many houses can you hit as a kid in an hour when you're trick-or-treating? 20?
Yeah, 20. I was thinking 20, like
20
3
houses.
minutes.
Yeah, 20 houses. That feels about right. In like a suburban area.
So I have access to 40 houses. I have 3 hours times the number of houses divided by 20 houses per. Converting houses
to kid hours.
To kid hours candy.
Yeah. Using the SI conversion for this. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and then doing the same for the nighttime, and then adding them together. 15 kid hours of candy. It's not that much.
Yeah,
Ooh,
once we
that's
started
pretty
going through
low.
percentages, that started to feel like when we started really asking the question, who would be fooled by 3 gremlins in a trench coat, I started to think that might be the way it goes.
But now, there is one last thing in my favor to bring this number up.
The witching hour.
Of these 400 houses, how many leave out candy bowls?
True. We said 10% before.
So if we have 40 houses leave out bowls, I'm pretty much gonna get the majority. I'm gonna get like 75% of those bowls of candy.
Well, it depends on what time of night you hit the bowl. Like, you'll have more coverage later at night, but there'll be less in the bowl.
Yeah, so I could put another factor on there. But is stealing a candy bowl about a kid hour of candy?
I would say
It's pretty close, I think.
it's pretty close. Yeah.
So there's 40 bowls. There are kids that take the bowls, and there are
Just gonna be.
there will be a drain on the bowls over time.
So, like, on average, what percentage of the candy bowl are you getting?
60. I mean, they'll refill sometimes too, so I'm not too worried about the drain on it.
That's fair.
true.
Yeah.
Sometimes they fill it.
No refill.
But I think if you went around and tried to steal every candy bowl, you'd probably get like half to like 60%.
Half is kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So now I have bonus kid hours of candy, because that 15 just trick or treating, but I got a full on 20 stealing from these candy bowls. So that puts me at the top with 35 kid hours of candy.
Blowing us out of the water.
So basically, Halloween time comes around. Do you want to have the most candy? Either have 35 kids or let one gremlin loose onto your town. And hope that makes up for the absolute murder fest that will happen at 4 a.m. in which no legal candy will be collected, but your entire town will be mostly on fire. That was weirdly close.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we were forcing it too much to be competitive, but like all of those strategies kind of translate to the same number. Like we did the units right. We approached it 3 different ways. And there you have, maybe not unsurprisingly, the Gremlins are the best at collecting candy.
And there are a lot of them.
And it seems kind of more up their alley than, the Thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would just go for the kids more than anything else. Like,
yeah, it would just kill everyone.
There is a fun fact that I forgot to mention from the movie where they calculated in the 1982 The Thing that if it reached civilization, it would assimilate all life on Earth within 3 years or something. So, probably just get to work on that more than anything. Candy's kind of just a bonus. I don't know.
Well, Halloween 3 years from now.
Boom. Got it in the bag, literally.
All right, we got a boogie over to our Would You Rather question because we are running long. Ben, are you ready for a Would You Rather?
Yes.
Would you rather have it rain candy corn or Snickers?
Oh.
Is it a normal size Snickers?
That's a good question.
No, it's gotta be the Snickers. It's gotta be the minis.
Fun size? Okay.
Fun size.
Yeah, 'cause that's what you usually get on Halloween. It's a fun size.
Are you asking vis-a-vis impact?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it
Are
makes
you
a
asking
difference.
vis-a-vis ballistics calculations?
So, I feel like I feel like, and maybe this is not a wait, okay. Second question. Are the Snickers wrapped?
That's what I was going to bring up. I think the Snickers are wrapped. The candy corn isn't.
The candy corn definitely isn't. Because, like, what would that even
I was
be?
imagining unwrapped, but maybe it should be wrapped. I don't know.
I'm just
Let's.
I guess, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, if they're wrapped, that's a really bad environmental situation.
Maybe that's just it was all the stuff from the Pacific garbage patch like finally evaporated and it's joining the water cycle.
I guess candy corn. If you make the Snickers wrapped, you have to make the candy corn wrapped because the candy corn doesn't just come loose.
It kind of does. Yeah.
Comes in a big bag.
Right. Like if you buy a bag of candy corn, the individual candies corn are all unwrapped, whereas the individual Snickers are all wrapped.
I was more thinking like how you would get it in your bag for Halloween, like if you're trick or treating.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it'd be like small bags of candy corn. Oh, I don't like that. The candy corn has to be.
No, let's do both. Let's do both unwrapped. Forget the plastic.
Yeah.
All right.
Forget the environment.
So if they are both unwrapped, I am very sad to report that this is going to be really bad for dogs if it's Snickers.
Oh. I mean, the wrapping wouldn't keep a lot of dogs out of it anyway.
No, the wrapping it's still probably not going to be great. They're just probably going to like choke on the wrapping instead of eating the chocolate.
I mean, how are dogs okay with candy corn?
I mean, Google.
Yeah.
Can
I mean, it's gonna be.
dogs
Don't recommend
eat candy corn. Oh no! Hold on. Wait a minute. It has an ingredient called xylitol. Xylitol. I'm gonna go with a natural sugar alcohol that's commonly used as a sweetener in sugar-free foods and candy, especially gum. But apparently, it causes a like hypoglycemia in dogs. So bad for dogs, regardless.
Yeah, so that's not a factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're both toxic in different ways. It's gonna be a bad day for dogs, but at least both are toxic because I don't know how we would get past it kills dogs if one didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's only the sugar-free ones that have xylitol. But the sugar, corn syrup, and oil are probably not great. They're not great for dogs anyway. So it's better than the chocolate, but still not good.
I mean, I assume if there's candy corn everywhere, the dogs are they're gonna eat a lot of it, which is not gonna be good.
Right.
It's not like they just eat one piece.
Right. Bet you can't eat just one.
All right, so
we're not going to talk
Let's say
about
the
pets
dogs-
anymore. I don't want to.
yeah,
because it's bad.
we can't say that we would pick the one that kills more dogs. It's just not going to happen.
Right. So we're going to ignore the impact on pets. We're going to say that
They're
pets
dog
are
safe,
fine.
dog safe Snickers and dog safe candy.
Exactly.
corns.
Yeah. We're just going to do that because otherwise this is sad and yeah. So purely
Snickers seems nastier,
it does.
but a shorter term problem.
I mean,
Like,
I think candy corn seems nastier just because I don't like candy corn.
but
I mean,
I mean, in the sense that like if my lawn is covered in it and it's a sunny day,
it's
like-
it's also like
It is
candy corn,
caramel.
like-
It has different components in it, I guess.
it has like the thing is, I feel like a good rain will wash away like 70% of a Snickers bar. Like it's gonna have a little bit of caramel left over, and it's gonna be not perfect, but like a candy corn is gonna sit. Candy corn just sits there.
The candy corn. I mean, it'll melt to it. I think it'll wash away. I think
Candy corn dissolve?
I feel like candy corn is easier to shovel for some reason.
Yeah, so
I agree with that.
Part
It's
of it
easier-
is that when the candy corn hits the ground, it's just gonna kind of about like flatten a little bit. That's kind of it. The Snickers is gonna like splat a little bit more, right? Probably. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, I think the candy corn will do more damage, like on your car and stuff. Maybe. I mean, it's less
I'm actually
mass.
looking that up now. So apparently, a fun-sized Snickers bar is roughly 18 grams. What's the way of like hail?
But a Snickers, I feel like it'll like squish more. It won't, like candy corn. It'll bounce.
Unless it's cold. If it's in the atmosphere, it could be like near frozen.
Oh God, and they're pointy.
Oh, the candy corn.
Yeah. I can't find I was trying to find like what size hail would match the weight of a Snickers.
Why doesn't Google just have this information at the ready?
I'm trying to figure out what to Google and I can't figure it out.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think a Snickers would do more damage than a candy corn.
Yes, it's got more mass.
It's
It
got more
definitely
mass.
I think they'll be close in hardness.
I like Snickers more, so the aftermath of just bending down and picking up a Snickers versus candy corn, I like better.
Wait, hold on. I'm
Are you
sorry.
gonna eat them?
Yes, this is a very important question. Are
If
you
there's a
going to
layer.
take the unwrapped?
I don't
Okay, I
know.
guess it's
I
like
might
the
have
top
a
layer.
collection
All right.
bucket or something.
Fair enough. You stick a mug out the window and bring it back in, and it's full of delicious
Yeah.
Snickers. Okay, fair enough.
I'm not going to touch the candy corn.
I do like that. I do like Snickers a lot more. This whole stick a bucket out my window possibility is actually swaying me a lot more towards Snickers. Because like the cleanup, that's not gonna be on me. I live in an apartment building. Other people are gonna have to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's weird. I like Snickers more than candy corn, but I never buy candy corn because you can't. I don't know. I feel like as a grown ass adult, I can't just buy myself candy corn. That's
That's
too
fair.
much of a. It's not as good as I want it to be, and I don't want that much of it. And I just but I do love getting running into circumstances where I can eat a few candy corn.
All right, so
during the Halloween season.
Are you saying you want it to be candy corn? You want it to rain candy corn because you like it less so you get it less? But you want
I want
a
it
little?
to rain candy corn because it raining candy corn is the perfect excuse for me to get some candy corn that I wouldn't otherwise get.
Where you
I'll buy
just
myself
normally buy a
Snickers at
Snickers.
Halloween time. I will have Snickers no matter what, but I won't have candy corn. This way I get both.
Amazing.
That's weird logic.
I had not find.
Also, I just don't want to clean up Snickers off of my house or driveway. I would rather just shovel up some candy corn is the other bit for me.
Candy corn, you could even maybe just get a broom and sweep it away.
Can you collect it and make and smush them together and make candy corn bricks and build something? That would be
Have
cool.
a candy corn fight.
That feels like a terrible, terrible idea. I do not think candy corn bricks are going to be particularly resilient to literally anything.
Okay. Let's I think we're just about ready here to make our final determinations.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with, for the weird reasons I've stated, candy corn.
Which makes no sense to me. I'm going Snickers because I like it more, so I'm going with the one I like more.
All right. I think this is basically entirely because I still rent my current place of living, but I'm going to also go with Snickers because it is far worse to clean up, but not my problem. And yes, I can stick a bucket out my window and get a bunch of Snickers, which
So if you owned a house or something, then you would...
I would
pick
probably go
corn?
candy corn. Yeah, that is basically the pivot point here.
All right. So that does it for that. If you want Ben to change his answer by becoming a homeowner, he's going to need more money, and you can help him get more money by going to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/absurdhypotheticals. Click Become a Patron. It is the best way to directly help the show, and when you do so, for just $1 singular a month, you get access to all our bonus content that we release each month, specifically for our Absurd Hypothetical pals on the Patreon. If you want to help the show in non-financial ways, send us some questions. absurdhypotheticals@gmail.com. You can just email them to us, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can just throw it right there in the comments. If you're enjoying the show, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review, whatever your podcast player or YouTube thing allows you to do that everybody asks you to do all the time for all the other things. Do it for us too. It helps. It does actually really help. But in any case, next episode, we are still going to be in October. So we got more Halloween action. We're going to be doing a Halloween movie grab bag. So we'll see you there.